Yo,
Yeah.
I am super excited for this episode. This is something that we've talked about for years now. Like, it's no secret that we love the symbolism of Metatron. Maybe it is a secret and you haven't realized it yet, but literally in every shot of the podcast, literally like ever since we've constructed this set, there's a Metatron's cube behind my head. Like, we love the symbolism there, right? And when we started this show, do you remember when we first began 2 years ago, we were like, yeah, we should do a Metatron episode.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's been something that we've been meaning to get around to, but it's daunting. We have so many subjects that we have to cover and dive into with a lot of research. And the other day we were talking about it, and Nick was like, "Yo, do you want to do the Metatron episode?" And I was like, "Sure." Metatron is a very mysterious figure. It is a figure that exists basically only explicitly in esoteric Judaism, meaning either Kabbalah or Merkabah mysticism, which is a very...
Is Metatron never mentioned in the Bible?
Not by that name.
Uh-huh.
We're going to get into that.
Okay.
So, actually, I should look up this Bible quote really quick. I might have put it... I have quite a bit of notes for this episode.
And for context, while he's looking that up, we've like... This is, for some reason, a subject we've always kind of breezed past. We'll like mention Metatron in passing. We have, like Ryan said, we have the Metatron's cube in our podcast art, like the one that you guys see right now on whatever streaming app you're watching. Our art has Metatron's cube like on one of the frames. Like, I think, or am I wrong?
It's right next to Ryan, is it not?
No, I'm talking about the actual art like that we have with all the frames on the wall.
Yeah, Metatron's cube.
Okay, yeah.
It's in the podcast art.
And then like we've talked about the number 1133, which is Metatron's number. So it's like we've always been kind of scooting past this Metatron thing, and we talk about it in passing. And to be honest, me personally, I've always been intrigued by the mystery surrounding Metatron. And I've always kind of dipped my toes in a little bit and tried to, we talk about it every now and then, like in private or whatever. But Metatron still remains like a pretty big mystery to me. And I've been super excited for us to finally like go deep and do a deep dive specifically on Metatron.
So there are very limited texts of Enoch, this profoundly mysterious figure in the Bible. There's like 3 mentions of him. The first one, I believe, is Genesis. I know I'm on my phone in class, but I'm reading notes. The first mention of Enoch, I believe, is in Genesis 4, which we're talking Bible terminology here. That's the very beginning of the Bible. We're talking about this was probably written 2,500 or 3,000 years ago. This particular text. Mm-hmm. We don't know exactly who. They'll say it's Abraham. No, it's not. That's not the reality.
Right.
That's what I learned in church, but it's not true. And the first mention of Enoch is, I just had it right here. It's 4:17 and 18. Of course, it picks up here. Cain made love to his wife.
Of course, it picks up here.
She became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Cain was building a city, and he named it after his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of Mehujael, and Mehujael was the father of Methusael, and Methusael was the father of Lamech. Lamech married 2 women, one named Ada and the other Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal. He was the father of those who lived in tents and raised livestock. Now, I'm going to quit reading that text for a minute, and then there's a few more mentions of Enoch. But I'm not going to read the exact scripture because I can just give you the paraphrase. You can look it up. In the book of Genesis 5, verse 21 through 24, it tells the story of Enoch is this figure who's like Noah, the flood story.
Yeah.
He's like, I think he's his great-grandfather. And as the story goes in the Bible, like Noah and his father, I can't remember. There's so many biblical names. There's so many, especially in Genesis. Mm-hmm. There's entire chapters of Genesis where it's like name after name after name after name.
Yeah, it's like reading Dune.
Ironically, guys, there was an archbishop in like the 1600s. I can't remember his name. It's like Archbishop James. I'll have to look this up. But like, how like when you grow up in church and you what's commonly believed is like the earth is 6,000 years old?
Yeah.
Well, how they got that right was they read the book of Genesis, and then one of the Gospels is like, first there was Adam, then there was blank, then there was blank, then there was blank, then there was blank. And in the 1600s by candlelight, some dude counted up all their ages and was like, well, this is how old the earth is. Literally. Like,
wow.
I'm not playing. Like, that's it. So Enoch is this figure who's a part of the flood story, but he's like the mysterious sage, like grandpa or great grandpa of Noah that he comes to for counsel. And Enoch has this like knowledge, and he gives him this knowledge. And then as the story goes, it says, and then Enoch walked with God, and he was not. He lived 365 years, and then he was not. It's implying that he ascended and he didn't die a physical death. Then there's one other figure in the Bible who supposedly didn't die a physical death, and it was Elijah. Anyway, so that's the canonical Bible version of Enoch, right? He's just this mysterious, wise sage who there's little written about him, you know? And then
it's like
there's
the great grandson of Adam.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like very early, like one of the first people
Yeah.
in the biblical story. But this much is written about him, like
tiny.
sentences.
In the Bible, at least.
In the Bible,
Right.
right. But we're gonna go deeper than that. And then I think I should have written down the scripture, but I think in the book of Jude, there's a very important mention of Enoch. You can like this one, and it's relevant. Okay, here it is. Jude chapter 1, verse 14. This is significant, dude. Okay, so for context on the book of Jude, this is one of the New Testament Gospels, meaning literally thousands of years after, the story of Enoch was supposed to have happened according to the history of these biblical figures.
Yeah.
There is a mere casual mention after the, ascension of Jesus, past the Gospels. Then you have all these other epistles, the books of Jude, the books of Acts, the Apostles, the Colossians, the Thessalonians, blah, blah, blah. It's like the stuff after Jesus. There's a mention in book Jude chapter 1, verse 14, and Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, behold, the Lord cometh with tens of thousands of his saints. All right, so that's it. That is the entire biblical reference of Enoch.
Wow.
But... okay, so here's where it gets dicey. So we're talking in the Middle Ages, or maybe even before. There's a 1,000-year window for some of these texts that we're about to explore, where like scholars and archaeologists have no literal agreement when some of these there's a 1,000-year window. Maybe it was in the Middle Ages, maybe it was in the BCE time.
Oh, whoa.
They don't know. But what's accepted is that they're authentic texts, and Merkabah mysticism and Kabbalah, which again, Kabbalah is esoteric Judaism. Okay. And I didn't make much mention of this, but in Islam, there's mentions of Enoch.
By the name Enoch?
No. But it is Enoch.
Gotcha.
It is. I actually wrote that one down. Hold on. It is by the name, I think it's Ezra.
Okay.
Metatron. Maybe I didn't write the Islamic scripture.
Flash.
Right? Okay, I didn't write the Islamic quote. But the point is, Christians, Jews, like Judaism, the practicing belief, and Muslims all have some significant reference. And I mean like exoterically, meaning this is accepted to be historically significant by these different cultures and religions, that this figure was a prominent figure with mystery and intrigue and mystique, right?
But they all talk so little about him.
Right. Well, I suspect that's because it was, slashed. Like, Okay. So in the 1940s, I believe, if we go back to like real modern human history, I think it was the 1940s. I think it might have been 1945. It was actually supposedly mere months before Israel was formed as a nation. You know how that went down, right? Like Israel was never legally a nation until World War II concluded.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It was just shortly before or just shortly after. I'm not a history buff.
Sure.
But around the time Israel became a nation in the 40s, they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's the books of Enoch.
Right, the book of Enoch.
Now, the book of Enoch, whether the contents of the book of Enoch are true or not, that's not what I'm focusing on here. What I'm focusing on here is it's archaeologically significant. It's dated to have been written at least 2,000 years ago. And the point that we should consider here, and these are conversations I've had with scholars of religion, like prominent scholars of religion through, like we know Dr. Diana Pasolka, my family, and some of her colleagues. I've had chats about these things with them. Not anybody that I want to name publicly, but the consensus in academia is that the Dead Sea Scrolls, in the time that they were written, were as heavily guarded and were treated with the same level of reverence as what would be known as the Temple Scrolls. So remember, the Bible wasn't officially published until the 300s. I think it was published, you could look this up. It was published in Africa, or like put together in Africa in the 300s, maybe like 365 or something like that. So we have to understand, like, these religions before, we're in 2023 and you can go to Walmart and buy a Holy Bible.
Yeah.
We're talking, they're small, relatively to the world at the time. They're what you would truly call a cult. And I don't mean that in a negative connotation.
No, it's just fully boots on the ground, like just distributing to
They're passing their knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. And like the priestly class had the temple, where the inner sanctum of the temple is where they held these original scrolls that we now know of today as the books of the Bible. And then, in like, I think it was like 70 AD or something to that effect, is when the Romans came and they like destroyed the temple, sacked it, just took everything. That's why in the Gospel of Mark, you have some of this kind of like radical, anti-Roman, kind of like apocalyptic vibe to it, because it was actually written in 69 AD. In real human history, in 69 AD, the Jews were like, this is the fucking end of the world. Like, the Romans are oppressing us. It was literally like within a year of that gospel being written, it all went down. My point is, the Dead Sea Scrolls were a part of those collection of inner sanctum scrolls that at the time the religious class were like
hiding them.
These are sacred.
Yeah.
And it's believed, this is why they were skirted off to a cave in the Dead Sea. And then, of course, in the 1950s, we find the Nag Hammadi library. That's the Gnostic text, different story. Okay. So in the book of 3 Enoch, the books of Enoch, I can't remember how many there are. There's like 40 or something like that. But in the book, it's it's just like in the book of John. There's so many chapters.
I know what you mean.
And they're kind of like little books of their own.
Okay, gotcha.
In the book of Enoch, particularly in the 3rd Enoch, is where, according to these scrolls, it's revealed that when Enoch when he, assumed a divine transformation into a being of the angel status, he didn't die a physical death, God took him, it's revealed that he ascended into a being known as Metatron. Now,
it says that in the scrolls.
Oh, yeah. Well, it gets more interesting than that.
I had always assumed, because you've mentioned in passing before, like, a lot of people think Metatron is Enoch. Like,
no, it is.
Yeah, I always assumed that was like implied by like historical records or like the time they were written about. I assumed it was corroborated, but you're saying it's actually written in. It's
written.
Whoa!
But it gets deeper than that.
Okay, let's go.
Remember, Kabbalah is a form of esoteric Judaism. We know this. People listening know this. Like, throughout the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period, particularly, was where there was this extreme revival of alchemy, wisdom tradition resurgence. Like, you had this twilight language where people were deciphering these texts and scrolls, or not deciphering, but writing these texts and scrolls. You have like a lot of the Hermetic tablet stuff started popping up in the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages and the Renaissance era is where this esoteric literature started exploding and spreading around through these secret societies. There are texts that were spread through Kabbalah societies that now, because of the power of the internet, like, we have access to read them, and it's a mind-blowing shit. It's stuff that I have never heard of, like texts that are vividly describing like how Metatron is like he's basically the solar Christ force of esoteric Judaism. He is known as like the youth. God calls him the youth.
Whoa.
Meaning, like, when he ascended to heaven, he's like the youth version of God. He's the second power in heaven. And
damn,
this was a viewpoint that was so radically heretical in the Middle Ages that your exoteric rabbinical Jews were so upset by these claims that they would, write stories like trying to like make Enoch or Metatron look bad, And it was this text that came out where it's known as the humbling of Metatron, where there's the story where God, like, essentially, you have these esoteric Kabbalists writing about Metatron being this glorious power who sees beyond the veil and it receives all the knowledge of the cosmos. And I'm going to read some of them.
Whoa.
And then you have the rabbinical Jews who are like, we don't like that. There's only one God. You're not even supposed to write his name. So they write the story about how God, like, lashes Metatron with lightning and turns his hair to fire and like tortures him and like humbles him, You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a split between these groups of rabbinical writers on how they viewed Metatron in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, sure, because the more radicalist, they would be like, oh, that's sacrilege. That's sacrilege.
Exactly.
You can't say that.
Just like the heretical text of Jesus from the Gnostics.
Yes.
It's the same thing, but with the Jews and with Metatron.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So again, we're just finding evidence that throughout all these cultures, even Judaism, there was in ancient times some form of savior, I say like solar Christ-like God force who incarnated in the material world and then poof, disappeared. Now, we have to remember, taking away from this for a moment, stepping back, it is believed in secret societies such as Freemasonry, Rosicrucians, Hermetic Order of the Gold, all these like mystery traditions who've operated for hundreds or thousands of years, who are just now becoming very well known about, they all pretty much say Hermes Trismegistus was Enoch.
What?
Like there's a belief that Enoch, actually, the living human Enoch, was the first ever human in this cycle of civilization that we live in, created the very first ever secret society. And it was known as the Essenes. That could be a whole episode that we should do.
Whoa.
So there's multiple different viewpoints here that are corroborating. You have texts of the Bible that are describing him as this ascending. I mean, dude, like even Jesus died a physical death.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Enoch didn't.
That is
Now,
wild.
Edgar Cayce, the psychic,
Yeah.
he had all these visions of the past, whether you believe it or not. I find it fascinating. He said that Enoch was one of the first incarnations of the Christ force. Like the Edgar Cayce view is like Jesus was just the most recent one, but there's a lot of people throughout history who were the Christ. Like,
yeah.
So there's this mystique. It's believed that so essentially like Thoth is the Egyptian version, Mercury is the Roman,
Hermes
is the Greek, Enoch is the Jewish.
Whoa.
The sage. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So it's really deep stuff. So check this out. This is known as the Sephir Heckalod, which is like, what does that sound like? Kabbalah, Sephir Yetzirah,
Sephiroth.
The Sephiroth.
Yeah.
It's their mystical body of knowledge that are describing the unknown secrets of the cosmos, right?
Yeah.
So like, and I'm not even going to read all of it. It's a lot of stuff, but I grabbed some stuff that I thought was interesting. So in the medieval ages and even before that, there were these secret groups of mystical Jews who believed in the importance of the Merkabah. You can look it up.
Shape.
Well, yeah. I mean, the shape, but also like the reality of it. Like they believed that the vision of Ezekiel, the wheel within the wheel,
Yeah.
where like this fiery ball comes from the sky and then these creatures come out of it. It's like a big orb, basically. They believed that the Merkabah was, it's basically like the phenomenon, like it's angels, like it's what we're experiencing today. It's these orbs come down, entities come out of them, give them a message, be not afraid, here's the mysteries of the universe, poof, they disappear. It was Merkabah mystics. They meditated on Merkabah, on the form that there is a vessel, some weird thing of light that comes down and these angels come out of it.
And it is the shape that is on the inside of Metatron's cube, right? Like that on the inside is
yes.
a Merkabah?
So hold on, I'm going to turn away from my mic here. This is a 2D shape.
Right.
If you render this in the third dimension,
it
it's
would be
Merkabah.
a Merkabah.
Yeah, literally.
Yes.
Like geometrically.
Because a Merkabah is inherently a three-dimensional shape.
Right.
Yeah.
But it looks like a 6-pointed star, doesn't it?
That is a 2D representation of, I mean, even down to all the lines inside the Metatron's cube, it looks like it would be like 3D rendered.
Now, this is kind of hard to see because it's painted with thick lines and the colors, but if you just look at line art of a Merkabah's cube, Metatron's cube, you just look at it and you just kind of let your eyes unfocus, you can see how it's like literally like a 3D rendering of a Merkabah.
Exactly.
Which is It's basically 6-pointed stars, but one in the vertical dimension, one in the horizontal dimension. Anyway, so we're going to read a little bit from this. This is chapter 1 of 3rd Enoch, also known as the Sephir Hecalod, which are a body of knowledge known as the Merkabah mysticism.
That's what it's called. Merkabah.
They were the Merkabah mystics. They were a group of Jewish sages who
That's epic.
held this knowledge like this is the truth. It's these light beings that come down and give us knowledge of the cosmos.
Damn.
So, chapter 1, and then it even mentions in here, it says, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. That's Genesis version 24. Rabbi Ishmael, this was this figure in history who was known as Rabbi Ishmael, and he was like a very holy rabbinical sage who was like, at the time, he was like the Mac Daddy of rabbis. And he supposedly had these visions where he was going to higher realms and kind of like channeling this knowledge from Metatron. Like it's believed to have been written by Metatron.
Whoa.
Received from Rabbi Ishmael.
Right.
So he said, when I ascended on high to behold the vision of the Merkabah, or the chariot, and had entered the 6 halls, one within the other, as soon as I reached the door of the 7th hall, I stood still in prayer before the Holy One, blessed be he, and lifting my eyes up on high towards the divine majesty, I said, Lord of the universe, I pray thee that the merit of Aaron, the son of Amram, the lover of peace and pursuer of peace, who received the crown of priesthood from the glory on the Mount of Sinai, be valid for me in this hour, so that Quaphsael, the prince, and the angels with him may not get power over me nor throw me down from the heavens. Forthwith the Holy One, blessed be he, sent to me Metatron, his servant, Ebed the angel, the prince of the presence, and be spreading his wings with great joy came to meet me as to save me from their hand. And he took me by his hand in their sight, saying to me, enter in peace before the high and exalted king, and behold the picture of the Merkabah.
Whoa.
So he's having this vision where he's in heaven, and Metatron is like, gaze upon this picture of the Merkabah, right? And then I entered the 7th hall, which I didn't have the context here, but the halls are like, they believe there's 7 levels of heaven where you ascend higher. So he's finally reaching the final level of heaven where the God force resides, right? So then I entered the 7th hall, and he led me to the camps of Shekinah and placed me before the Holy One, blessed be he, to behold the Merkabah. As soon as the princes of the Merkabah and the flaming seraphim perceived me, they fixed their eyes upon me. Instantly trembling and shuddering seized me, and I fell down and was benumbed by the radiant image of their eyes and the splendid appearance of their faces, until the Holy One, blessed be he, rebuked them, saying, my servants, my seraphim, my cherubim, and my Ophanim. Remember Ophanim. Remember, it's the thrones. It's just like orbs. Cover ye your eyes before Ishmael, my son, my friend, my beloved one, in my glory, that he tremble not nor shudder. Forthwith Metatron, the prince of the presence, came and restored my spirit and put me upon my feet. After that moment, there was not in me enough strength to say a song before the throne of glory of the glorious king, the mightiest of all kings, the most excellent of all princes, until after the hour had passed. Metatron has 70 names, but God calls him the youth. Rabbi Ishmael said, in that hour I asked Metatron, the angel, the prince of presence, what is thy name? He answered me, I have 70 names corresponding to the 70 tongues of the world, and all of them are based upon the name Metatron, angel of the presence, but my king calls me the youth, like he's the little power of heaven.
Whoa.
Whereas God is the big power of the macro.
It even says there, like, I have many names.
Known throughout the world.
Different cultures.
Yes.
Call me different things. Hermes.
Right.
Enoch. That's Thoth. That's crazy.
But I am he. I am the being that ascended and became the little power of heaven.
He's Mike Guy. Yeah. He's my guy. The springtime of youth.
Yeah, the youth. But the youth is like, because he was a human who, like, essentially, like, Metatron is the story of us who reach enlightenment through lives, Yeah. But Metatron was known as youth because he is considered the second power of heaven, a view that was extremely controversial and heretical in medieval period. That was my context. Chapter 5, I just dropped the description, the idolatry of the generation of Enoch, meaning, like, why they did the flood in the first place, because of Tubal-Cain. They were doing really dark sacrificial type practices, witchcraft. Like, it was just a bad period, and God was like, I got to flood the world. So it's believed that because of, it's said in this book, that because of the horror and the evil in the world at the time of the flood, which we know there really was a flood at some point.
Oh, it's proven. I mean, scientists around the planet agree. There was at least one one great flood, most
yeah.
likely multiple.
It has happened.
Yeah.
But according to this chapter 5, I just skimmed it, but it says that the idolatry of the generation of Enoch causes God to remove the Shekinah from earth. Shekinah is, if you know Kabbalah, that's one of the Sephiroth.
Oh.
It is the dwelling of God. So what they're saying here is like there was a time where we were close to God and then we were so evil and so vile, we were wiped out, and the spirit of God was removed from us, where we're dumb, we're blind, we're in ignorance. We had to start over all over again. Now, in Kabbalah, Shekinah is the divine feminine.
Whoa!
The aspect of God that is loving, that is nurturing, that is caring, the Holy Spirit, the force that God sends through earth, exactly like the Holy Spirit, the divine feminine. It
no way,
removed
bro.
from the world because we were so evil.
That's unbelievable. Okay, question real quick. According to Kabbalistic tradition, like what do they believe about Jesus? That he was one of the Christ figures of many? Or
I honestly don't know.
Yeah,
we should definitely do a Kabbalah episode.
And then like also I'm curious what the Kabbalistic view is of like Lucifer.
From what I understand, this has just been told to me in passing. I don't know this for fact, but I thought that Kabbalah was like the two paths were like the path of Christ and the path of Lucifer, like symbolically, like you go either way.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, because there's a lot of similarities to like the esoteric life and lore around Lucifer and what you're saying about Metatron now. There's a lot of parallels. It sounds like the whole journey of man thing.
I want to stress that I'm not saying we should all like Metatron's it. We should worship Metatron. That's not my point.
No.
My point is we're finding historical significance that there really is some story of man descending into the material and then ascending back to the spiritual in all cultures. And like Judaism truly is one of the most mysterious religions in the world. It's a fact. If you're not a Jew, like a practicing Judaic believer, you don't know shit about it.
Right.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
The Talmud is like thousands of pages. It is extremely dense. Most people have never even looked at it, have never even opened it and read a verse. And like it's fascinating to dive deeper behind this very mysterious religion and see like even they, it's like the belief is Jews don't believe in Christ. That's fine. They believe in the solar force.
Yeah, the Christ consciousness.
Right, Christ consciousness.
Right, yeah. No, I think an episode about Kabbalah is
we gotta do it.
Necessary, because there's so much significance behind the Tree of Life, and,
right.
and I need to know about that stuff. I have a quick little aside question for you. Did you know about a lot of this, like this significance when you first got really into Metatron's cube?
I knew I knew that Metatron was this figure. I hadn't like been reading the texts.
Yeah.
I've read the books of Enoch when I was younger, like 15 or 16 years old, when all the UFO stuff was really going on, and I was seeing these videos on YouTube, like read about the book of Enoch. It's like about UFOs. But it also has like, in some of the books of Enoch, it has a lot of stuff in there that is just like, it doesn't make sense. It's like some of it is really good, and then some of it is like, I don't know.
Yeah, fun fact, one of our first bands was named after a verse in the book of Enoch. There are these like creatures called the Watchers. Aren't they like fallen angels that mated with humans and became these like giant creatures or something? So we had a band called Watching the Watchers. Oh my God, dude, so cool.
We were like 15.
Yeah, I know. But one cool thing, I've wondered for a long time, like years, what is the like connection between the figure Metatron and the Metatron's cube? And now I understand. Now it's clicking for me.
It's the soul ascending to light.
Yeah, and that's the significance behind the Merkabah.
Right.
The Metatron's cube, I now understand, is a 2D representation of a Merkabah.
You know what else is going to rock your freaking socks off?
Rock them off, please.
I'm
not wearing socks.
There are these rudimentary shapes in, you could say, like archetypal geometry, right? Like, it's like, we know that, you look around, I'm looking around right now, I see a lot of squares, I see circles, I see some triangles. We know that there are certain shapes that are immutable.
Right.
They make up all of reality. There are only so many shapes that make up the reality in an orderly and logical fashion that we experience.
Mhm.
And there are 5 archetypal shapes known as the Platonic solids. And
Like Plato?
yes.
Gotcha.
And they are just like, it's like pyramid-like shape. I don't remember the name of them all. It's like dodecahedron, icosahedron. It's these complex geometric shapes that like most of geometry comes from.
Make up everything.
Metatron's cube has all of them in it.
Oh, no way.
It's the totality of all of the archetypal shapes that structure the universe.
That is so sick,
It's the
dude.
ultimate geometry. This one is. Truly.
Damn.
You can see it. Like, you can look it up and see breakdowns of it. It contains all of the archetypes
I
within
would love to see that. It is truly, like, you just look at the Metatron's cube. It is, like, beautiful. Just, it's so perfect and symmetrical and, like, wild looking. And now, I mean, I didn't know all this time. To be clear, I didn't know much about, like, the Merkabahs in general. But now that I'm hearing about it and I hear the context, I get it. And now I can't stop looking at it. The Metatron's cube, because I'm like, it's a Merkabah.
That's why I wanted it there.
Look at the middle of it. It's making a point at you, because it's a Merkabah is 3 dimensions. That little like circle with the triangle, it looks like a pizza in the middle. That's a point coming at you in what would be the 3rd dimension.
When you see it in line art, it pops. You can really see it. And there's also some like animated renderings of it to where you can see, like, it's truly like it is a Merkabah.
That is so
Now,
sick.
Merkabah is another interesting subject that we're not going to go that deep into, but Merkabah comes from, I think it's like, I can't remember the languages. It's like Egyptian, Latin, and Aramaic or Hebrew or something like that. And it's like spirit, light, body, like Ka is the Egyptian word for the soul. Ba, I don't know. I can look that up real quick. Etymology of Merkabah. It's really cool though.
So Merkabah is not from one specific language?
No.
Whoa.
It's an ancient word that's an amalgam of multiple different languages.
Which would go to show that these like studiers of Kabbalah are cross-referencing mysticism across cultures.
Right.
Like it's not just
They all were.
right, exactly. Like the true mystics pull from every mystic culture.
Right.
Like and they combine them. That seems like
I'll have to find it later because I want to stay on track. The roots of the word.
I can look at it while
But
you're going.
okay, so it was also believed that Metatron is the archangel Michael, that they're like kind of one and the same being, is the same role. He's like
Really?
the Prince of Heaven. He's the ruler of all the angels. Metatron, there's also no exact agreement on where that word came from. Some think it might be Greek. Some think it might be Latin.
Which word?
Metatron.
Oh, gotcha.
There's no agreement amongst scholars.
It
sounds Greek.
It sounds
Yeah.
Greek.
He was believed to be Michael. Metatron the Youth. It's a title that was previously used in 3 Enoch, which appears to mean a servant and identifies him as the angel that led the people of Israel through the wilderness after their exodus from Egypt, and describes him as a heavenly priest. In the later ecstatic Kabbalah, Metatron is a messianic figure. The Zohar, which is like one of the most prolific, it's like the entry level, like most well-known Kabbalistic text. The Zohar and I think the Sefer Yetzirah. I've read both of them, but it's been years. The Zohar describes Metatron as the king of the angels, and it actually associates the concept of Metatron with that of the divine name Shaddai, which is like an old Hebrew name or even Aramaic name for God, El Shaddai, like the Lord. So there's this secret mystical reverence towards this mighty holy angel who was a human, ascended to the great powers of heaven, and is one with God, like Jesus.
Oh yeah, that's why I was saying, what do they think about Jesus? Because this is so similar to the story of Jesus, while simultaneously being similar to the story of Lucifer, which, you know, in mystic tradition, there's this thought that like heaven and hell are not literal actual places, but it's like it's kind of 2 sides of the same coin
It's
realm.
a mindset.
It's the same thing. It's like Metatron is both of those in one being. Like he is exhibiting the story and the lore of Jesus and Lucifer at the same time, which is like, that's really wild. And
Do you remember how like Aleister Crowley and other magical societies like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and some other ones, John Dee back in like the I guess the Renaissance era, they developed this mystical language known as Enochian.
Yeah.
There's all this magical mystique
Yeah. Well,
behind
we
this figure through many cultures.
Well, shout out Cliff.
Shout
we
out
also
Cliff.
had Cliff on. We talked about Enochian magic.
Right.
Like that was incredible. I have do you know, I mean, is it known at all, like what happened prior to, like what caused Enoch's ascension? Like what, was there something like,
According to the Bible, it's like I mean, they have more in these texts. I don't know. I only put this in my notes as opposed to like how big the texts are. But it's like, even in the Bible, he's known as the scribe of God. Like he was a human. I'm talking Genesis, right? Like Thoth.
yeah,
Or
Hermes.
Mercury or Hermes.
Bro, come
The tablets
on.
dispensed to humanity.
Hermes is the messenger of the god. The messenger.
Yes, it's him.
Yo.
It's him.
That is.
He ascends to immortality, being a light being. Like even the Kabbalists, the mystical Jews go so far as to say like they say, oh yeah, all the stories in the Bible where like an angel came and helped people out from God, it was him.
Whoa.
You know,
any Kabbalistic significance to Gabriel?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I'm just thinking about that Kendrick Lamar lyric.
Yeah.
He's like, I answered to Metatron and Gabriel. Also, in another song off of his new album, he says that he named his son Enoch. He says, my son Enoch is the part 2. Like,
Wow.
which
That's
is
deep.
that he's the youth. The part 2, he said.
Right.
You know, like
Right. He's onto something.
I think he's been studying Kabbalah.
So if you take the gematria, y'all know what that is, right?
No.
It's like you take you know what? Can you explain gematria?
No.
It
Okay.
sounds like a Godzilla villain.
It's like
It does.
it assigns a numerical value to
Letters.
Oh, okay.
And the numerical value, but it's like specific. It's not that simple. It's a little more complex than that. The gematria value between Metatron and Shaddai are equivalent. Like there's a
Really?
numerical significance between them. Zerubbabel. Okay, so in some of the I don't know exactly what texts these are. I don't know why I didn't write them down. In the Apocalypse of Zerubbabel. This is a text called the Apocalypse of Zerubbabel. He's identified with the archangel Michael, and he plays a role of, I don't know why I don't have my glasses on for this, heavenly interlocutor delivering knowledge about the coming messianic age. So there's this sense that Metatron is this angel that comes and is like there's a new age of enlightenment and awakening coming. You know, there are some Islamic beliefs about Metatron. The earliest account of Metatron within Islamic scriptures might derive directly from the Quran. Uzair, according to Surah, which is a book in the Quran, 9, verse 30 through 31, venerated as a son of God by the Jews, is another name for the prophet Ezra. So they're like, in the Quran, they're like, you guys worship this prophet Ezra, but there's only one God. But they're referring to Enoch and Metatron in the Quran.
Right.
It's just a different name.
That's one of his
linguistically.
different names from the different cultures.
Right. Okay, so that's the gist of Enoch 3, and I barely scratched the surface of it. Now there's another text I want to go into.
Ooh. Ryan bringing the heat today, y'all.
This one is very weird.
Okay.
It's even weirder.
Okay.
And it's actually the one I had written down first, but I decided to go in reverse order. So, okay. This is a purely Kabbalistic, we're talking like secret text that most people have never heard of.
Okay.
This is like deep, mystical Judaism shit. And it is called the Shi'ar Kumah.
Shi'ar Kumah.
And it is a text where, okay, so imagine you're in the Middle Ages or even before. This is that text with the 1,000-year window that I was initially referencing.
Okay.
They don't know exactly when it was written. It could have been BC, could have been in the Middle Ages. They don't know. And it is a text that is written by a rabbinical sage who claims that it's actually claimed it was written by Metatron.
Whoa.
And the purpose of this text is to overwhelm the imagination of the initiate reading this text to get them to try and grasp the ineffable, omniscient, omnipresent, immortal, eternal macrocosm of God. So
Whoa.
it's like
It's like intentionally designed to like shock and overwhelm
the imagination.
so that you could maybe try to begin to fathom the
Yes.
scope of the mystical
The
God.
cosmic God.
Right.
Again, we're talking like Middle Ages mystical Jewish scripture here. This is something that's like, whoa, like I thought they just like read the Torah, right?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, the text is describing God in a quasi-bodily form, meaning it is describing God as anthropomorphic, but the measurements are so absurd that it's like billions upon billions upon billions of units. They're basically describing the body of God as the entire cosmos itself, right?
Whoa.
So again, the purpose of this text is to overwhelm the initiate. They're not supposed to understand it.
Right, yeah.
It's supposed to stimulate their mind and awaken them to like, oh my God, like God is everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Whoa.
So I got some text from it.
This thing sounds sick. I want to
Shir
read this.
Kuma, you should. It's not very long.
Really?
Yeah. Shir Kuma, which translates to the measure of the body,
Okay.
the body of God.
Okay. So Shir Kuma is the name of this text.
Yes.
Body of God.
It is the Hebrew term for an esoteric doctrine concerning the appearance of God. This doctrine is developed in the Tanaitic period as the most secret part of Merkabah mysticism. When the mystic attained the vision of the supernal world, I don't know exactly what supernal means, but it sounds epic. When the mystic attained the vision of the supernal world and found himself standing before the throne, he was vouchsafed the vision of the Shiar Kuma as the figure in the form of a man, which Ezekiel had seen on the throne in his first vision of the Merkabah in the Bible, Ezekiel 1, verse 26. So it says, this is the book of the angelic secrets of Raziel the Great One. Rabbi Ishmael said, Metatron the Great Lord said to me, I bear this testimony on behalf of the Lord Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, the living and enduring El, our Lord and Master. There's a few things I have to reference for context here. The units of measurement are something that I had never heard of before. They're Persian, and they're called parasangs. Also, this is just common Jewish history. We have the Ten Commandments, right, where they say, thou shalt not use the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
That does not mean, oh my God. That's not what that means.
Mhm.
We learn that in church. That's not what it means.
Right.
What it really means is, in Judea, in ancient Judea, 1st century and beyond, in the BCE era, they believed that it was sacrilegious to speak the name of God outside
right.
of ritual or sacrifice.
Gotcha.
You just don't say the name. They believed that it was such a sacred name, it was known as the Tetragrammaton, and they believed that to speak it could kill you or curse you.
Just say the name.
To even write it. So that's why when you see the name Yahweh written, it's written as these 4 letters, YHVH, because they removed the vowels. This is like an ancient practice. They removed the vowels when writing the name of God, even in the Bible, or before it was the Bible, it was just the Torah or whatever. They removed the vowels because they only had the consonant letters so that they could see and recognize that it was the holy name of God, but they were afraid to be cursed. They wouldn't even write the name. So this text has I only included a few of them. You can see it just has strings of nonsense letters because the mystic was just putting together tons of random consonants to try and invoke this magical description of the names of the body of God. But it's also supposed to be nonsense that overwhelms the mystic who's reading it. Right?
Damn, for what purpose?
Just I guess to
open your
awaken
mind?
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But all right, so we're going to read some of it. The book of the angelic secrets of Raziel the Great One. Rabbi Ishmael said, Metatron the Great Lord said to me, I bear this testimony on behalf of the Lord Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, the living and enduring El, our Lord and Master. This is an excerpt from chapter 2. It is said that he who knows this mystery is assured of his portion in the world to come, is assured to be a son or daughter of the world to come, and will be saved from the punishment of Gehenna, which was their word for hell, and from all kind of punishments and evil decrees about to befall the world, and will be saved from all kind of witchcraft. For he saves us, protects us, redeems us, and rescues me from all evil things, from all harsh decrees, and from all kinds of punishments for the sake of his great name. His beard is 11,000. Remember the number 11.
Oh, yeah,
Metatron's number, it pops up a lot. His beard is 11,500, 110,000, and 1,500 parasangs.
Huh?
It's like millions and billions. You know, back
right,
then it was like
right.
thousands, and hundred thousands. You know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. His name is, and then it's just letters like HDRRQSMYA, you know, in Hebrew. The appearance of the countenance is as the appearance of the cheeks, as well as the appearance of the cheeks is unto the likeness of the Ruach HaKodesh, and in the form of the divine soul, which no creature is able to mention or describe. His astral shell is like chrysolite. His splendor glitters awesomely from out of the midst of the darkness.
Whoa.
Have you read anything like that in the Bible?
No.
His astral shell?
Yeah, dude, bro.
Now,
He got a glitter beard?
well, I'm going to take an aside here for a moment. So it just said, like the Ruach. As far as I know, that term's not in the Bible. The
Yeah,
Ruach.
I was wondering, what is that?
I was on the phone with Dad the other day. It's relevant to this. I was on the phone with Dad like 2 days ago. And we were just talking about the lady, the Holy Spirit, whatever. And I was describing, you know, like how we were just talking about it. And he was like, she's like the Ruach. And I said, Dad, wait, what did you just say? And he said, the Ruach. I was like, you just said Ruach, like the Hebrew word? He was like, yeah.
And you've been studying this?
No, not yet.
Oh, wow.
I was like, how did you know that? Like, is that what you meant? And he was like, yeah. She's like the Ruach, like the spirit or like the breath or, you know, that's all around us, the life, the force. And I let it go. But in my mind, I was like, wow. You know, I watched this anime like 10 years ago called Magi, which is about this character named Aladdin in Sinbad. It's like mystic, you know, there's a character Solomon, and it's like kind of mystical, this kind of Arabic and Jewish mysticism packed into an anime. And that was
sick.
It's really cool. But that's the first time I ever heard the word Ruach, because that's in the anime. And the character is like, he's like the child of, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but whatever. It's a canceled anime anyway. He's like the child of Solomon the Wise, like the wizard.
Shit.
And there's this spiritual force that's called the Ruach that like flows through all life, and they tap into it for magic.
Whoa.
So I was like, damn, like I haven't heard that word in 10 years, and Dad just threw it out there. Like I've never heard Dad say that before. An hour later, I start researching this. I find some secret mystical text that for the first time in my life, I stumble on this word. I was like, what the fuck?
That's crazy.
Like, talk about synchronicity.
Yeah, just so happened to mention that word you haven't heard in a decade.
Literally.
2 days before we're doing this episode.
Well, like an hour before I started researching it.
Yo. I mean, if that's not some kind of like message from the beyond, that
Right.
is too synchronistic. That's way too synchronistic to just, oh yeah, Ruach. And
Now,
then,
this is what Ruach means.
that sounds like the Force.
Basically, yeah. The definition of Ruach, I know I wrote it down. It's the Hebrew word for the spirit, the breath, or the wind. Even when spoken, the word engages your breath in your lungs, like Ruach. You
Right.
feel it in your breath and your lungs. It's like the Holy Spirit.
I just had to shock you there, like you're my initiate and overwhelm you.
Yeah, it worked. Okay, so I skipped forward from chapter 2 because there's a lot more to this text, and I wanted to hit some important points. So I think we're in like verse 9 or whatever out of this Shir Kuma. Rabbi Yishmael said to me, the above mentioned Rabbi Nathan. I don't know why I put that in parentheses.
Shout out Rabbi Nathan.
Shout out Rabbi Nathan for the Middle Ages or beyond. Rabbi Yishmael said to me, in the presence of his pupils, I and Rabbi Akiva, it sounds like Akiva, right?
Yeah.
But in this time period, Akiva was another like prominent rabbinical sage of that time period,
Cool.
like recognized culturally.
Sick.
And this text is referencing this real historical figure. I and Rabbi Akiva vouch for this, that whomever knows this measure of our Creator in the praise of the Holy One, blessed be he will surely be a son of the world to come, provided he learns it regularly every day. His body fills the throne of fire of the Torah. His name, a bunch of syllables. The locks of his body are named, a bunch of syllables. The half have a nickname called, a bunch of syllables. One of his eyes with which he sees from one end of the world to the other is named, syllables. The sparks issuing from it give light to all creatures. The other one which sees backwards, with which he sees in advance.
Oh my gosh.
What is going to happen in the future is named blank, a bunch
Yeah,
of
yeah.
consonants. His body is unto like a bow. The bow is like unto its name. Half of it is named blank. His sword is called blank. It's a bunch of letters like MTZ,
Wow.
MTZYT, MTZYA. The throne of his glory is named blank. The place of his seat is called, this is also his nickname. The feet of his glory are the Chayot standing under him. The youth, Metatron, appears and prostrates himself before the Holy One. Remember the other text called Metatron the youth.
Yeah.
These aren't the same
this is
text.
oh my God.
That's what I'm saying.
When you said the youth, I immediately
You knew
assumed-
what I was talking about.
Yeah. Whoa.
It's not the same text.
Yo.
They're written by different groups of people.
What?
Or maybe not, but they're discovered at different
Oh,
points
yeah.
in human history.
Yeah, and one is claimed to have been written by Metatron.
This one.
Yeah, whereas the other one was like transcribed through Metatron, right?
Right.
So it's like the same source information.
Right.
Yo, has anybody ever like decoded all of the like consonants? Like,
I have no idea.
this is
I
like
have no idea.
because my brain just does that when I see stuff. I'm like, tell me what it is. Just tell me. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the letters. Just tell me
Yeah,
what it is.
just tell me.
But that's cool.
But it's supposed to be magical nonsense.
Yeah, and that is kind of even cooler. Like,
Right.
it's literally supposed to shock you and piss you off, and like it's supposed to make your brain go like, "Oh,
I can't describe. I can't fathom it.
Yeah, it's bigger than I can even fathom. Like
Right.
my brain cannot fathom even the words. That's so.
When you
cool.
read the whole text, it's basically the point is like the entire created universe is the body of God. That's the
Yeah.
it's the mystical truth. Like we are the microcosm and God
That's-
is this spectacular macrocosm. Bro, you don't learn that in church.
no,
Or you
bro,
know
if I was learning that in church, I'd still be in there.
right. Like
I'd still be in there, like yeah.
but this shit was written over 1,000 years ago. You know?
That's insane.
Maybe.
Yeah,
It could have been 500 years ago.
Right.
They don't. I guess the Middle Ages would be like 1,000, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 1,000 years ago, dude. We didn't hear about all this esoteric shit till just a few years ago. Like there's just more corroboration that this Atlantean wisdom tradition knowledge is real. It's everywhere.
And it's been popping up everywhere throughout history.
Yeah.
Like throughout.
And they all have the same like idea of it.
Yeah.
So I think something happened in history that wiped the slate clean, and we just have forgotten what it all means. And we don't. I say we, meaning the whole, the majority of the population. We don't understand the connection.
It's like
anymore.
It's like the 100-year gap in One Piece.
Yeah.
It's like they call it like the blank century
The
or
blank
the
century.
void century or something like that.
Yeah.
Like 100. Like
Right.
bro. I mean, look, if there was some other side to this coin, this dark energy, this dark and like whatever, I feel like that would be a pretty big important part of the plan would be to separate the world from this information.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, I don't know, we would be here for less time or we would be easier to control. I don't know, like who knows why, but there's something missing. There's something missing. Like
Right.
the connection is missing, but the similarities are there. It's everywhere. You see it everywhere. It's like, where is this? What's it called? The place where you go in the astral realm that has all the information of the entire universe.
Well, they all have the Akashic records.
Akashic records, that's what, yeah.
The Rosicrucians call it the Celestial Sanctum.
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah,
the
yeah,
Kybalion, they call it the Psychic Temple of Wisdom. It's a thing. It's just like they all call it
So
something.
it's like did something happen and we don't remember, or are
Well, this said the dwelling of God was removed from us when the flood wiped us out because we were so evil.
oh,
Maybe that's
right.
really what it is. Maybe we lost our connection to the spirit world.
Whoa. I mean,
maybe that's true.
think about it. Think about
Or Atlantis, even.
Yeah. Think about the evolution of human history. Like, it's like ever since year zero, whatever,
Right.
AD, it's been progress, but all materialist progression.
Yeah.
All of it.
Technology.
The Industrial Revolution. Yeah, technology.
The Bronze Age, the Stone Age.
Yes, and then, shout out Oppenheimer. He out here making crazy bombs.
I want to see that.
I do too.
Yeah.
Barbie was awesome.
Yeah,
Like
it was. It was
and
hilarious.
also super mystical, surprisingly enough.
Very much.
But yeah, it's like that's where our material progression is getting us. It's getting us killed. It's getting bombs blowing up innocent people. It's It's worthless. It's meaningless. It's actually causing harm. So
I think like it wouldn't be worthless if the connection with the spirit was there. You know what I mean?
well, right, absolutely. But because the connection's not there, it doesn't mean anything. It
Right.
means nothing. We could be progressing.
We live more comfortably.
Sure, but at what cost?
Right.
At what cost, bro?
Happiness and freedom and liberty around the world and lack of suffering
And millions of human lives,
Right.
With
hunger and famine and greed.
and war and just straight, you know what I'm saying? With
Yeah.
human progression comes greed and war and death and things like that, just with our material progression. Yeah, can you imagine a world where we were evolving in tandem with our spiritual,
Right.
with our consciousness? If that was evolving at the same rate that our materialist world was evolving, imagine where we would be.
Yeah.
Who knows? We might have already reached the age of Aquarius.
I kind of honestly like. I'm not just saying this. Like I think we
I
have,
think it's happening
and
now.
and we're in the dawn of it.
Right.
We
It's just
it's
starting.
like the sun is rising and we can see the light, but it's not. The sun's not at noon yet. Like it's happening.
That like resonates with my intuition. It's just
It feels different, doesn't it?
past couple years have been feeling very different in the best way. Sure, there's always going to be bad stuff on the news, but I'm talking about what you see on the ground level
Right.
on a day-to-day basis. I'm seeing my family and friends around me all transforming and becoming the best version of themselves.
Everybody I know virtually,
Yeah, everybody.
at least like good people.
And people's minds are opening wide open to these what used to be known as outlandish concepts. People in my life, I won't say who, but people in my life who have thought one specific way for 30, 40 years, and now they're all of a sudden talking about reincarnation and
Right.
wait a minute, maybe hell's not a real place. Like I had a conversation the other day with one of my family members, and they were like, it was so funny because they're just like generally curious about this stuff that we talk about.
Mhm.
And they were like, so what do you think? So then, if that's what you believe, like, who do you think goes to hell or whatever? And I was like, that's the secret. There is no hell. And then, well, they were like, well, okay, then what about heaven? Like, who gets to go to heaven? And I said, everybody.
Eventually, yeah.
I said, everybody.
It might take some people millions of years.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
like
yeah.
if they're really bad.
Of course,
but
of course, yeah. Like some souls, who knows? There's no time frame. Time is an illusion. But I was like, is that not the most beautiful thought?
Right.
You can just turn that thought off of like who gets into heaven and who gets into
It's like
hell.
if there was an iteration of a hellish world, like it would be here.
Mhm.
But that's really, really good news.
Yes, it is.
That's amazing.
Yes,
it's the
it
best
is.
news I've ever heard.
You don't have to worry about burning in hell for eternity.
Right.
Yeah, you gonna say something, Alec? I see your finger on that button.
Like Scoob, it's pretty good
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Zoinks, man.
Rubber Raggy, no one's going to hell. Yeah, I was just like, everybody's going to heaven. Is that not the most pure, beautiful, amazing? Why would you not choose to believe that? Everyone gets to go to heaven. Like, you don't got to worry about that anymore.
Everybody look under your chairs. You get a ticket to heaven.
You get a heaven. Yeah, like we're all gonna rejoin the Force one day.
Right.
We're all gonna it's funny because some people call it the source, like where consciousness comes from. If there is a quote unquote God that is a singular entity, it would be just like the source of consciousness.
Right. There's a little bit more of this text. Blessed be the glory of the Lord Yahweh from his place. And they repeat after him, blessed be, it's the same thing. Blessed be the name of the glory forever. Metatron enters in front under the throne of glory. He is accompanied by stones of fire and hailstones and a wall of roaring Za'af, whatever that means, on his right. On his left, wings of storm and strength of tempest accompany him. When Metatron enters before the Holy One, blessed be he under the throne of glory. He holds the throne with a multitude of wings. So just imagine that. We're talking about, in other texts, I didn't really read much from it, but like the angels who are like always been angels, Metatron goes to heaven and they're like jealous of him. And God's like, no. This is the youth. This is my power manifest. You know, he's
the number
exalted. He's exalted as the king of angels and all the human realm. He holds my throne. You know, so like the symbolism here is like Metatron is like kind of like the duality of God, but like in us. It's like Christ is God, but he's not, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Right.
In their terminology.
They're the same, but
it's
different.
it's like the man who went to heaven and like now he sits at the throne of God and he kind of like also is God. You know what I mean?
Isn't that crazy? He ascended and became a part of God.
Right.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that what happens to all of us?
Yeah.
That's what happens to consciousness.
Right.
According to these mystic traditions, when your soul is purified and you ascend, you become just a part of everything. You become a part of God.
Right.
Isn't that wild?
Yes. They praise the Holy One, blessed be he, thrice daily through Metatron. The Holy One, blessed be he, bestowed his splendor and his beauty on the ministering angel Metatron, the Lord of the Presence, who has been appointed Grand Master over all the lords of ministering angels. They stand before him, and he stands higher and higher upwards, and ministers before Adam, a fire-consuming fire throne. Kisei is its name. This is the seat of Metatron, the Lord of the Presence, which is written with one letter, Aleph, the unity, with which heaven and earth have been created and sealed with the ring, I will be that I will be. Ayer, Aye, Esher, Aye, which remember, that's the name of God that is spoken at the burning bush.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. When Moses is like, has this vision of God in the fire, and he's like, well, I mean, you know, I'm supposed to go tell the people that I met you. Like, what's your name? Like, what can I tell them? And he just says, Aye, Asher, Aye. I am what I am. I am. Like,
Yeah.
I exist, you know?
Yeah.
It's saying Metatron is that. Aye, Asher, Aye. And is written with 7 letters and 24 letters and 72 names and 7 holinesses. Kedushoth, and it is placed on 6 of their names and is engraved on 12 stones and is written on 7 sounds, voices, on a height of 6 by 6. Okay, so again, we're talking about, I remember even back when I was like a devout Christian, learning about Metatron and being like, that's really cool, but like, you know, people just made that up.
Yeah.
But like, no, like this is ancient texts, like, this wasn't written today.
No, you can cross-reference it with other ancient texts and see that there are striking similarities.
The best part, the most beautiful, just like mind-blowing part is the fact that these mystical Jews were claiming like this is the man Enoch that's like in your Bible, dude.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, like-
y'all already talked about him. You just don't know the whole story.
Yeah, you just don't know what's up with him.
Yeah. Let
You
me
know?
let you know. Let me put you on.
But then the craziest part is like you read the Bible, and even in the few sentences we have, the mystery behind this, it literally says in the book of Genesis, he ascended to heaven and he never died a physical death, and he was God's right-hand man, and God loved him so much he took him and made him a...
Yeah, that's one of those.
It doesn't say made him an angel.
Right.
But,
That's one of those moments in the Bible you want to just like point at and be like, "Hey, what's
happened?
this? What's this?
right.
Why? How did this never happen any other time? Why did this happen? Well, it happened with Elijah, right? But it's like
yeah. The only other time.
it's like how are we not elaborating on
like,
this?
bro, even Jesus died.
Yeah,
Supposed to be the most important figure. He died.
yeah.
You know.
Why aren't we elaborating on this?
How did this guy not die?
Right. Yeah, that seems
You know?
pretty important.
Is it metaphor?
Exactly.
Did it really happen? Or, you know, is it an actual, I say Christ force. I know that's like, you know, people will say like, you know, that's only about Jesus, but that's not what I mean. I mean like
Sounds like a group of Christian teenagers that fight crime.
Christ force.
Yeah.
It's an 80s cartoon.
Yeah.
Christ force.
Bible man.
Yeah. But no, I mean like there is a Christ consciousness. There is you could call it a solar force. You know, as they say in theosophy or other wisdom traditions, like there is a real energy that exists. It's like we all are this force. We all are the microcosm of the force.
Yeah.
You know, it's
The force is
mind-blowing.
strong in you.
It's mind blowing, dude.
Damn, dude. Metatron's dope.
Yeah, definitely my favorite.
Okay, so just real quick, because I know we're running out of time. Where did 1133 come from? Is it just like he references that number a lot, or
11 is said to be the number of Metatron. 33 is the master number, the number of Christ, the number of the sage, the enlightened master. 11 is the I can't remember exactly. It's like the number of manifestation.
Yeah.
11 and 33 is like two master numbers put together. The number of the enlightened master, but also the number of the divine being.
Oh,
you put them together. But also 1 and 3 is, you take away the double digits and you have 1 and 3. There is 1 is the number of the supreme God, the cosmic consciousness, but then 3 is the number of creation, like manifested creation, but also the number 13. And the circle here, you'll notice there's 13 circles in Metatron's cube.
Yeah.
So it's just there's a lot of reasons why it's attributed to Metatron. I don't know. I mean, let's look it up.
It interestingly almost like symbolically describes Metatron too.
Right.
Like what you're saying about the significance.
Like man and God.
Yes.
Master of both.
In one.
Right.
Yeah. See, that's pretty sick. I always wondered what was up with 11.
Let's see why 11 Metatron's number. Let's see why.
Let's see why.
Let's find out why.
You put on your super North Carolina accent for that one.
Yeah, Pastor.
Let's see why. Why? You gotta give it a lot of H. Why?
Why?
There you go.
As far as back we can remember, the creation of the universe has been associated with angels who are believed to have assisted God in creating this great masterpiece of the universe. It is believed.
Damn.
I was doing the thing on the radio where they read really fast, but
for commercials.
No, but no. Let me skip to the meat of this geometry. Okay, so it's tied to the geometry.
I kind of wondered if that was the case because Metatron's cube is such a significant.
I want to see why, man. You open these articles and they'll like give you. I just want the freaking data, dude. I just want the information.
Maybe it's not meant for us to know.
You know what I'm talking about? When you open an article and then it gives you 6 paragraphs of like, here's why we're going to talk about this subject.
Yeah, it's like
Shit pisses me off, man.
Just give me the.
I got a lot of information to get through.
Just give me the answer.
I don't know. It just is believed that it is the number.
Hey, we'll follow up on it. We'll follow up on it. But just from the numerological descriptions of like 11 and 33 and then 1 and 3 and 13, all of those are like symbolically describing the story of Metatron, which is wild. I mean, that's enough for me.
I know what I could look up. 11 numerology. I know 22 is what? The Master Builder number, Alex?
Master Builder and Master Destroyer.
So then what is 11?
11 is charisma, like master communicator. And then
powers.
33 is like just the master number.
Spiritual, intuitive, and sensitive, often helping and influencing those around you. It's the as above number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the first number that ascends beyond the basic number system.
Oh, wow.
1 through 9, then you have 10, and then you have 11.
But you don't have 10.
Yeah, there's.
Oh, that doesn't count? Okay.
No, 10
yeah,
is,
that's
10
true.
is
That's
1.
True. Yeah. I just read something kind of cool. It's also like the number of the psychic master. 1111, make a wish. You know what I mean? Like it's always been the most popular angel number.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
Damn, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That was killer. That was a sick episode. Metatron is dope.
For real.
Was. I feel like I finally have a solid grasp on because I've been asked like, okay, what's the deal with Metatron? Well, you're talking about Metatron's cube and Metatron's number, and I would always just be like, I don't know. He's like
it's dope.
He's like the archangel. He's like the king of the angels. But like now, I fully understand the significance. Like that's way more integrated and important than I realized.
It's like Christ, but also like the archangel.
Yes.
It's 2 in 1. It's like the angel and the sage. You know, like it's cool.
That's badass.
It's really cool. I remember why we did this because we talked about it in Evangelion.
Oh yeah,
remember?
Yeah,
we talked about Metatron.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Metatron is dope. Episode title.
Yeah. I'm down. Let's do it. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We love you all, and you know what we about to do. You know what it is. 3, 2, 1. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
You were late on that one.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more, check out our other videos.
And before you go, don't forget to subscribe. See you next week.
Peace.